Here's a video for 2.3 written homework solutions. So here's the questions we're looking at. Let's start with problem number 9. It's an interesting question. It might be a little confusing that we have a graph here. And well, not the graph is confusing, but this idea of what's called the misery index. And it's a way for us to measure. Someone created a way to measure maybe how badly people are feeling in the country, and the way they did that was to decide to look at unemployment rate and inflation, and somehow putting those two values together would give you what's called the misery index, and that's what we're looking at. First, the two individual graphs. So estimate the rate of unemployment in 2011. You can look, the one in unemployment is in red, and so if we estimate it, it's somewhere right here. So we're looking around 9%, and there's our answer there. The highest unemployment rate was about in 2010. You can see it got about 9.8, 9.7. Okay. The highest inflation rate, looking at the blue graph, looks like right here, and that was around 4.3. And so we have those values just reading this type of graph here, this time series graph. The next thing is unemployment rate and inflation rate were closest. Where were they closest together? They were the closest together right here. It looks like in 2001, very close here. And they were the furthest apart somewhere in here, and it looks like around 2009. From here to here, they're very far apart. So E, looking at the misery index, which is the sum of, you add up these two values together. Which year has more which was more miserable, 99 or 2014? And again, you can see where these values come from. In 1999, you add up those two numbers together, approximately 1.8 and 4.2. It gives you a misery index of 6. In 2014, you add up those and you get an 8. So according to this measure, someone created just to say, let's measure how miserable people are in the country. The way we do that is by adding inflation and unemployment rate. And that's where we would get that. So it looks like in 2014, they're more miserable. And then the last question, comment on the trend in the misery index. It looks like, again, if we look at the misery index by looking at the sums of these, here, since 2010, it looks like the index has been declining due to the decreases in unemployment. So notice unemployment has been decreasing, inflation kind of staying the same. So you could kind of see that the people were not as miserable because unemployment started decreasing as a result to compared to inflation rate. So that's number 9. Number 20, putting it together here. Here's another bar graph, a bar graph and a time series graph, looking at the number of shark attacks and fatalities worldwide. Write a simple report explaining the trends. Looking at this, and here's a sample report for that. Looking at the patterns here. Again, discuss the apparent contradiction between the increase in shark attacks but the decrease in fatality rate. And so if we look at that, in the years since 1900, the number of people who have been killed by shark attacks has been increasing, but the fatality rate, the percent who died, has been decreasing. What's the contradiction? Is that the number of sharks attacks are increasing. You could read this, but my thought is it's because the number of people in the world has increased. The number of people who are swimming, getting out to ocean, doing water activities is increasing. And in relationship to the total population, it's actually been decreasing. And so remember, this is a percent. This is part compared to whole. And so those are the two things that you got to keep in mind. That's it.